Economic historian Robert Allen found evidence that wages in Britain were significantly higher than wages elsewhere, due to extensive foreign trade. Figure 1 shows the wages paid to laborers in select cities around the world where data exists. Measured in grams of silver per day, wages in London and Amsterdam started to pull away in the 16th century. These two cities, more than any others, benefited from the increase in trade across the oceans. But the real magic is when we look at wages relative to the price of energy. In figure 4 of Allen's work, we see that Newcastle, the English town that was the birthplace of the steam engine, had the highest wages relative to the price of energy. But London and Amsterdam also came in at a ratio above 1. That means only in Britain and Amsterdam were wages higher than the price of energy. In other places around the world, like Strasbourg in Germany, Paris in France, and Beijing in China, hiring an additional worker was cheaper than buying the energy you'd need to get a machine to do the same work. Higher wages in Britain and Amsterdam made investments in labor-saving technology viable. An entrepreneur making textiles will aim to reduce costs, and they will install one of James Watt's expensive steam engines to run their loom if it costs less than just hiring a human being to run a loom instead. Robert Allen writes, as a result of these differences in wages and prices of energy, businesses in England found it profitable to use technology that saved on expensive labor, by increasing the use of cheap energy and capital. With more capital and energy at their disposal, British workers became more productive, the secret of economic growth. In Asia and Africa, the cheapness of labor led to the opposite result. The same idea forms the basis of an economic theory of growth developed by Paul Romer. Wage increases incentivize investment in labor-saving technology. Let's take a more modern example. If accountants are expensive, we might look for ways to make them more productive so that we don't need to hire as many. For example, we might pair an accountant with some spreadsheet software. Now the accountant is able to automate some tasks by using the spreadsheet software to do them. Where once we needed, say, 20 accountants to handle the books for our company, now we only need 16 accountants who each have Excel. That is only worth it if Excel costs less than those 4 accountants. But if it happens, the makers of Excel are going to see a boost in demand. They will have an incentive to make sure Excel stays cheaper than hiring more accountants. They will tinker with it and improve the technology to make it even cheaper, and in doing so, they'll make it more applicable to different areas. With the new features, Excel isn't just useful to accountants, but to other people in business, and to all different kinds of businesses who can use it to automate certain tasks and increase labor productivity. Higher labor productivity means that a single worker is able to get more work done than before, which makes them more valuable to employers. That increases the demand for labor and pushes wages up further, incentivizing another round of innovation. The paradoxical result is that when entrepreneurs try to save on labor, they end up incentivizing the creation of technology that makes labor all the more valuable to them. They seek the technology in order to eliminate jobs, but end up with technology that makes labor more profitable, leading them to hire more people. The irony is that Britain innovated themselves out of their own comparative advantage. The unique situation in Britain and the Netherlands led to a boom in production of textiles and other manufactured goods, which they could then sell to the rest of the world at low cost. But as their labor-saving technology improved, it got cheaper, and sooner or later it was profitable to install one of these newfangled steam engines in Paris and New York and Tokyo. And so they did, and the Industrial Revolution spread. The real question for this theory of the Industrial Revolution is whether or not British wages really were so high. It is a theory supported by limited evidence, because such data is in short supply. But if it was the case, as the limited data suggests, then it might be the heat we need to get things going. The scientific revolution and enclosure movement in agriculture, increased trade, and greater economic liberty gives us the oxygen. But we still need the fuel that keeps the fire going. We need to know why all the innovations were not suppressed, as they were so many times before.